Today I'm going to tell you what the most despised professions in the United States are. I ran a survey late last year, and compared to all my other surveys that I've published, this survey got the most responses, almost 14,000. I asked a few different questions on the survey. What are the worst jobs in the United States? What is the most hated profession? What is the most dishonest or shady profession? What job would you never do again? And what job or profession do you think has the worst reputation? I also left a section for them to leave a comment or an explanation. What I learned from that is this isn't just people that have been consumers or had to deal with someone in that profession. It was the people that work the profession as well. They hate it. That made it far more interesting. Is this the most scientific way to do a survey? No. Is it interesting and entertaining? Yeah. So buckle up. We are exploring the most despised professions in the United States. Get it? Got it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, construction worker and contractor. This one caught me off guard. Then when I started reading some of the comments, it made sense. A lot of it has to do with workers. Construction jobs are fading away due to automation. I mean, that's a lot of industries right now, and a lot of construction workers really don't like it. I mean, anytime your job is drying up, you're not going to like it. Now, there's plenty of construction work. It's just a lot of the different things are being taken over by automation, and it bothers people. Less and less work. Then when you look at the consumer side of it, they hate it because things don't always turn out like they have in their head. It's awfully expensive to have things done to your house or whatever, and things always seem to go over budget. That's how the typical consumer sees it. 90% of the time, everything goes relatively smooth. Nobody ever talks about those, and nobody ever thinks about those situations. They only remember the horror stories they had about getting a bathroom put onto their house or an extension put onto your house. Then, of course, you have the occasional just con man posing as a construction contractor or whatever. Those stories hit the news, and people start to develop an image of contractors and construction workers. And that image helps them get on this list. One respondent named Len said, half the people I worked with in this industry in my 30 years of doing it, I would only work with once because they half-ass things and they're chronically late. 3% of survey respondents had construction workers down as their most despised profession. Number 9, police officers. Police officers get a bad rap. Sure, they've got plenty of examples up there of police doing bad things, but keep in mind, there's over 50 million police encounters every single year, and of those, less than 1 million of them end up in an arrest or any kind of use of force situation. And those are the only ones you ever hear about. And only a fraction of those are to the point where the cop should be arrested or at least fired. But you watch TV long enough or you talk to the wrong people, they make it sound like cops are out tasing old ladies at bus stops and arresting dudes for having a lazy eye. Shelly from Tallahassee said she was a police dispatcher for over 30 years. She retired in 2019. She said throughout her career, the police always grumbled. They didn't like the job anymore. They weren't going to do it anymore. There was always some of that. But she said somewhere around 2016, 2017, almost every cop was talking like that. Probably all those YouTube channels that audit the police, they go out and they film someplace and wait for the police to show up and give them a hard time so they can get some good footage. If you see someone filming in public, everyone, cops, civilians, whatever, hear me. There's nothing illegal about filming in public, unless you have some expectation of privacy where you are, a bathroom, a changing room at a store. Anywhere else, it is perfectly legal to film as long as you are not physically trespassing. You could film into someone's yard, you could film into a police parking lot, you can film into a hospital parking lot. If it's a public place, you could film. But a lot of cops have looked really bad on those channels. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll leave a link to Long Island Audit. He has a pretty good channel. Some of the other ones are out there just trying to push people's buttons to get a problem. Long Island Audit, they're doing it the right way. They might be annoying, but they're doing it the right way. But yeah, that's just more added pressure onto the police these days. 3% of respondents had police officer down as their most despised profession. Number 8, journalist. journalism used to be a great career. Everyone really liked the guy that wrote newspaper articles and things like that. That all changed, and not just when they started using the phrase fake news. Back in the 80s, they started having these lame shows and started having more of those trash supermarket magazines. In my opinion, I think that's when journalism started getting a bad rep, was back in the 80s. I'm sure there's an argument for earlier than that, but that's when I really started to notice it. But in recent years, with the whole concept of fake news coming out, that's when they really took a hit to their reputation. I can tell you right now, almost every single person that voted for journalists brought up fake news. I think the problem with most of them is they don't understand what fake news. Fake news is a real thing. And it kind of showed up during the 2016 election. There was people actually creating fake news articles to try and get you to think that it's an article from some reputable place. And it was just total BS. Could have been about whichever person running for office. And the stories were 100% fake, so they were actually fake news. These days, a lot of people seem to think anything they don't agree with in the news is fake news. I did find it amusing that a lot of people that selected journalism and then left a comment about fake news, they also had something like, obviously it's journalism with their fake news. Well, I'm here to tell you it wasn't obvious because they're at number 8. 4% of respondents had journalists down as their most despised profession. Number 7, school principals. Who saw this one coming? I think the people that voted for this one were just bad students back in the day. And whenever you're a bad student, you end up talking to the principal. And sometimes your parents have to come in and talk to the principal. And then your parents start to dislike the principal because they had to come in and talk to the principal too. School principal is another profession that gets a bad rap. They do 1,000,001 things every year to make sure the school year goes as smooth as possible, but it's mostly done behind the scenes. Nobody knows what the principal's doing until they're in trouble and have to go talk to the principal. And not saying they don't have bad principals, sometimes they do. I read this thing about a principal in California 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that any parent he had a disagreement with, he basically called child services on the family. 5% of respondents had principal down as their most despised profession. Number 6, insurance agent. I know a few insurance agents. I don't hate any of them. But when I was broke and really couldn't afford anything and I had to buy insurance, yeah, I didn't like them too much then. I actually used to call them fear pimps. They're making you buy something by scaring you. They sit you down, they talk in those quiet voices. Let's say you're driving down the road and your lazy eye goes sideways. You hit a pole or a tree. Depends on which eye was looking at what. Cop takes you out of the car and arrests you for having a lazy eye. You're going to have your car repaired so you can make your court appearances and optometrist appointments. What if you run over a journalist doing a story on lazy contractors? They're going to have medical bills you're going to have to pay for. That's why you need insurance. So they do that to you. You buy all kinds of insurance, or the state mandates you buy insurance just so you could drive. And when you got no money, this tends to get on your nerves. I've seen a few comedians make jokes about you get insurance in case something happens. But if nothing happens, shouldn't you get some of that money back? Which is a pretty good joke if it's laid out properly, but it also makes a lot of sense. Sure, they'll try and tell you that, oh, well, we pay you back by having lower premiums because you're a good driver. Yeah, okay, maybe, but I'd still like to see a check at the end of the month or the end of the year, whatever. I think that's why insurance agents get such a bad rap, and it's why people despise them, because a lot of people are forced to buy insurance, and insurance can be expensive. 5% had insurance salesmen down as their most despised profession. Number 5, car salesmen. Now, obviously, this is going to be used car salesmen. They've had a bad reputation that's actually legendary at this point. I actually had the worst car salesman one time. He was ridiculous. The younger guy I was talking to had the sale. I was ready to buy the car. Then this older salesman comes up and he had that total used car salesman vibe. And he's standing there for a second and goes, all you got to do is look under this hood. Lifts up the hood and then kind of presents it to me like, there you go. With this attitude, I'm all, that means nothing to me. I don't give a crap about the engine. I'm like, how comfortable are the seats and does the stereo work? I actually despise car salesmen. I'm on board with this one. I cannot stand it. I actually go to a car dealership that's one of those ones where they don't negotiate, nothing like that. Here's the price. Do you want it or not? And then they offer you some packages. Do you want to add this or no? And there's no hard sale. I've never gotten a sale out of these people. It's Wilsonville Subaru here in Oregon. They're like 20 miles from my house. I got a Subaru dealership like 4 miles from my house, and I drive all the way to Wilsonville. And I think they got a better program going because the dealership in Wilsonville is really nice. The one near my house, no, not so much. I think their parking lot is gravel. 6% of respondents had car salesmen down as their most despised profession. Number 4, telemarketers. This one's a no-brainer. I think it should have been number 1. Everyone hates telemarketers. Has anyone ever picked up the phone and been happy to hear about their car's extended warranty? Back in the day, they'd call every single night at dinner time trying to sell you a long-distance service for your phone. Thank God for cell phones. That killed that industry. I remember when that was dying off. I got several calls and they're all, yeah, you can switch over to us for your long distance service. Well, I don't call long distance. And if I need to, I have a cell phone for that. And the guy's only comeback was, well, what if your cell phone's battery dies and it's an emergency? Like, if my cell phone dies and I'm having an emergency, nobody long distance can help me. It used to be so much worse, but these days we still have it. We get texts, we get all that kind of garbage on our cell phones. They have this no call list, which is BS. I've put my name on that thing like 10 different times and I still get calls. The reason for that is most of them these days are a scam. They're already doing something illegal, so they don't care about the no call list. 8% of respondents had telemarketers down as their most despised profession. Number 3, auto mechanics. Yeah, I could see this one. Going to an auto mechanic never is a good thing, at least for 99% of us. If you're a car enthusiast and you're getting things put on your car, maybe an upgrade, something like that, yeah, you probably enjoy going to the auto mechanic. It might be your thing. But most of us end up at an auto mechanic because something broke. And then not only did something break, you've been inconvenienced, now you got to pay someone to unbreak whatever broke. I think what most people fail to realize is the mechanic's actually getting you out of the problem that's been created. Then on top of that, you have the occasional mechanic that overcharges. One of the people from the survey, named Raul, said he worked for a tire place that did brakes and some other things, and if you got them to buy other services, there was a bonus in it for you. And I quote, "If we saw a female coming in alone, all you had to do was tell her the horrible things that could happen if they didn't get something taken care of, and they got it taken care of." He also explained they never really lied to him. He just said they'd tell them the worst case scenario, and that always got them to buy the service or do whatever they were suggesting, new brakes, things like that. 8% of the respondents said they despise mechanics. Number 2, lawyers, or as I call them, truth pimps. The origins of lawyers and the first founders of law make their appearance in ancient Greece and Rome. In ancient Athens, orators would often plead the case for a friend because at the time it was required that an individual plead their own case or have an ordinary citizen or a friend plead the case on their behalf. In the modern world, the first law school was not opened until 1100 AD in Italy. And I'm sure within a year of that law school opening, the first lawyer joke was told. In my life, I've heard dozens and dozens of lawyer jokes. Some of them are good, some of them are just hack stuff, like, what do you call 1,000 lawyers at the bottom of the ocean? A good start. Most of the time, lawyers are doing something good for someone. Other times you hate lawyers, probably because you're on the wrong side of a verdict. So you hate your lawyer and you hate their lawyer and you hate the judge who used to be a lawyer. And when you're in a court case, half the time, if you're not a lawyer, you don't know what's going on. That lawyer's got to plead your case and occasionally lean over to you and try and tell you in his best dumbed down version of the law so you can understand it. I have a friend that was a lawyer and he was telling me that one of his clients told me because I was a comedian at the time, he thought this was worth making a joke out of, but he told something that was going on to his client. And the client's all, I don't understand, explain it to me like I'm an 8th grader. So he dumbed it down, he explained it to him. And the client sat there and stared at him and said, all right, now explain it to me like I'm a 2nd grader. There are 1.3 million lawyers in the United States. And did you know 1 in 4 of those are in just 2 states, New York and California? 14% of the people surveyed had lawyers down as the most despised profession. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. There is a link for that down below. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Politicians. This one shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Nobody likes politicians. If you like one politician, you normally hate all the other politicians. The only politician I've ever really liked was Jim Justice from West Virginia. He's the guy that held his dog's butt up at a press conference and asked Bette Midler to come kiss it. He's also the guy that I talked about this one before, but he dropped an F-bomb at a COVID news conference. He didn't even try and apologize. He said it was a technical issue. I think politician is the only profession that has more jokes told about it than lawyers. And oddly enough, most politicians are lawyers, at least through history. That's becoming less and less of a thing. A whopping 19% put politicians down as their most despised profession. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, and be nice to each other.